Do you have any stories from when you occupied Japan?
Well, when we went to Japan, of course the Japanese obeyed the emperor. We were getting on board ships to invade Japan. And I'm glad Truman dropped that bomb. I would have voted for him if I could. When we got off, the Japanese all turned their back to us, except the little kids were there. You know, they would look around, and the moms would jerk the kids around so that they wouldn't look at us. But we walked right in. See, we were proud. We were first in Manila and first in Tokyo. So we went in. We just marched in to claim the victory. Got on big trucks and just started driving around the country. And another place I went to, I had my next guard's post was like Mount Vernon. It was an old house up on a hill, and we agreed not to bomb it. Well, of course, underneath of it, they had dug tunnels, and they had all kinds of supplies and ammunition underneath it. We didn't know about it. So I'm sitting outside, there's a fire, and at one time, the first night, I went in the cave and slept. When I woke up, that thing was filled with 7 centipedes all over the place. And boy, I didn't sleep in that cave. So I came outside, and I'm sitting around the fire, and the little boy comes up, and he throws something in the fire, and he goes, pow, 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 pow. It was ammunition he had found somewhere. And all of a sudden, a woman came up from the mountainside, and she had been a school teacher, and it was the little boy's mother. And I told her I was just about ready to kill your kid. She spoke good English. She was perfect English. And I said, he got that ammunition out of there, he could have killed us both. So she said something to him in Japanese, and he didn't do it again. But that had a hole under that mansion. And there was strings of lights now and then, and all their radio equipment and ammunition, a lot of stuff hidden. I had walked around the street, and I didn't know it, but across the street was a nut house, and the people were looking out of the windows, watching me, you know. And every window, as I walked by, they looked out. I must have looked pretty tough or pretty dumb. I don't know which.
Okay, so you had the teeth.
So anyhow, the little old man said, "Me, Matsumoto," or whatever. And I said, "Me, Dinky." And he busted out laughing. He thought that was the funniest thing he ever heard. Dinky is light bulb in Japan. But that was, they had some of the biggest crows I have ever seen. They're all around there. Their crows were about that, they were huge. And they had big trees. It was like Mount Vernon, a historic place. Where else did we go? I went to an airport, slept on the top of a desk. I still have some mercury somewhere in my house that I got from there. They had a barrel of mercury. I didn't know anything about it being bad. We thought it was fun to put it on a piece of paper and watch it skip around. So I had a little tube of medicine called, for the malaria, which I'd used. And so I just dipped it down in there and put the top on it. And I don't know where it is now, but I still got it. And I gave Christmas everything I had from, I didn't give him my chap bugle.
Yeah, okay.
Because when I went to Japan, the old men in our army, in the cavalry, they didn't want records, they wanted buglers. So they put a notice on the board, if you agree to be a bugler, you're exempt from everything else. No guard duty, no KP, nothing. So that's for me, because I was in the drum and bugle corps with my brother when I was little. And so I became a bugler. So we had 6 buglers, I was on duty once out of 6 days. So that's why I used to get on the train and go to Tokyo and saw General McArthur 5 or 6 times because his office was right there beside the main gate. But I would just go in there and sit around and had Japanese come up to me, they wanted to speak English. So they would say phrases to me and I would correct them. Me, the guy who barely spoke English himself. But I would say, no, we would say, we will, we won't. And they learned very fast and they wanted to learn. But how we beat them, I don't know. Because they were tough soldiers. They dug better. They never gave up. They climbed right over their own dead. And we had a machine gun just going all the time. And I'm not proud of this, but it was self-defense. It's just, they just didn't give up. If it hadn't been for the emperor saying no problems, when we got to Japan, we found out that every woman and child had a rifle, pistol, or a sword, and were going to defend us to the last person. They did not believe in surrender. They had to be almost dead to surrender.
Was it suicide at one point?
Yeah, when we first, I said, what was that? I don't know the order exactly. We went to their official marching field. It was huge. This is where the Japanese soldiers worked. We set up all their tents. So one night I hear this siren, and it's coming closer, 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 and then it comes up our troop street. And three tents up, there's a Red Cross tent. Well, that's not the proper term, but there were people with medics there and doctors. And so when it pulls up, it's a Japanese. They take it out of the ambulance. And he's all bandaged up, all terrible job. So all of a sudden, the MP stepped in and told us to skedaddle. And there was Hirohito. He had tried to commit suicide and he blew it. And most of the Japanese carved their stomach out with a sword, but he chose a pistol, but he missed. So, of course, they healed him in time to kill him. But the next day, that Army ambulance had Tojo's hearse written on it with a caricature, great caricature. It was almost man-size of a Japanese with a bandaged head and X's. McArtor ordered it removed immediately. The Japanese loved him for it. He did not rub it in, but he did not want that hearse running around, Tojo's hearse. This wasn't Hirohito, it was Tojo. I think I said Hirohito. He just didn't have the courage. And so finally when he healed, we hung him. So they went to his wife and said, "Your husband is dead." She said, "Oh, so." That's their answer for everything. "Oh, so. So, thank you." She wasn't that upset. Yeah, that was Tojo's hearse. I wish I'd had a picture of it. I didn't. See, we weren't allowed to have cameras. I had a lot of pictures there. Some I wouldn't want, and some I would. But Tokyo was floored. When we bombed Tokyo, see, most of the houses are made of paper and wood, but we leveled it.
Yeah.
And you could dance there for, I don't know, I think it was 10 cents a dance or something like that. And of course, I didn't dance, so that didn't cost me anything. But guys would go down there just to sit and talk to the girls. Well, that made the men some kind of angry. I mean, they were angry. I would decide to go with a buddy of mine on a ride. Here, we're in Japan now, there's no other American troops. And we're going to ride this train out as far as we could and ride it back. Well, we get out and we stop on the platform, well, I smoked. So I took out a Camel and started smoking. Immediately, Japanese came around me looking. They wanted the butt. And this woman walks up and in perfect English, you should be ashamed of yourself, taking advantage of my people like this. I'm taking advantage? I'm just lighting a cigarette, like I lit all the time. But she was really upset with us for getting them all upset. When I first went to Japan, I gotta say this delicately, you could get a girl for a cigarette. I mean, for all night. Not a pack, one cigarette. That's how much they loved their Camels, particularly. Not a Lucky Strike wasn't bad, but Old Gold, they weren't too happy with that. And at one time I hate to say this, I shouldn't have said, but I was on guard duty for 4 houses of ill repute. And we had orders not to let the Air Force in or anybody else that was First Cavalry property. And all the pretty girls were sick. And they were in another house. We would let anybody go in there because they all had clap or something. But they were some very pretty girls. I was just one day in there. I was glad to get away from that. We took turns rotating guard duty, and there's so many memories back in the back of New Guinea, Luzon. There's a place we invaded and didn't get any objection from the Japanese at all. And I went to a place called Gimba, which was not far away. And of course, the further we went in, the more we started getting some static from the Japanese. But they were weakening finally. They were thinning out a little bit. But they still were determined they were going to push us off those islands. And I'll tell you, they may have been very close at one time. That's where Joe Nunn was killed. We went to a place called, I forgot the name of it. But there was some kind of insect in there. It drove me crazy, drove me nuts. It was all over the place, biting, nibble. What do they call that? I don't know. It was nighttime, and we couldn't see them, but it would drive you crazy. They just kept nibbling, biting, crawling, and you couldn't get away from them. You couldn't jump into water. And that's where they first used rockets against us. That's a scary thing. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures, but the rockets are, they just defeat, there's no defense. There's just no defense at all. And of course, Joe got it in the machine gun, I think, and right in his head. But, oh well.